This Saturday betting pick show for the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Circa Sports. Circa Sports is back with their Circa Survivor and Circa Millions contest. $14 million up for grabs. Get all the details at circasports.com. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Friday, July the 7th, currently 5:04 on the East Coast. Here to get into our lock, dog, and total for the Saturday games. And we'll also be talking about the NL East division updates. Maybe not much to talk about there, but hey, we're still going to discuss it here. And joining me to help me break it all down, you guys know him as a voice on the NBA Gambling Podcast and here on the MLB Gambling Podcast. It's Delonte Smith. Lonte, how you feeling, my man?
Yeah, man, pretty good. We got a scorcher over here in on the East Coast. I know it's really hot where you are, but yeah man, enjoying the inside and some baseball coming up. Good series coming up, so looking forward to that this weekend, right before the All-Star break.
Yeah, man. All-Star break right around the corner. Last weekend of series before we do get into the All-Star break. The Home Run Derby is on Monday, and then of course the All-Star game is going to be on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I believe games will reconvene on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Thursday.
Yeah,
Thursday.
So yeah, a little break for us, but hey, we're still gonna be grinding out pods. We'll do the Home Run Derby pod maybe Sunday night, and then we'll maybe do some second half futures updates and teams to bet on, maybe teams to fade as we get into the second half of the season for this year in MLB. You guys know how we do it here on Fridays. It's how we're going to be a shortened episode, log, dog, and total for the Saturday games. And like I mentioned, we'll talk about the NL East as well. So, Lonte, let's just dive right into it, man. Let's get into our picks for the Saturday games.
Sure.
And then we'll transition over to the NL East division. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Usual suspects in there, TV, DBJ, Kaysen, Randy. Appreciate you guys tapping in with us as y'all usually do. Lonte, let's start off with our total, man. Why don't we go there first, and then we'll work our way to the dog and then the lock. What do you got for your total for the Saturday games?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with a total that I think is a little bit too low. I understand why it's that way because of the pitcher that's going, but I'm going with Atlanta, Tampa. I'm going over to 8.5. It seems like a relatively short number just due to the offensive success that both teams have had. Now, granted, Strider's on the mound, so that might be why it's shaded, a little bit down. Otherwise, it would probably be around the 9.5 mark. But, I mean, Tampa's 30-15 to the over at home. Atlanta's been, an over team all year, 47-36 on the year to the over. Tampa struggled offensively, but, I mean, 3 of their last 5 games have went over, and the totals have been around this number. I mean, 8.5, 9. We had a couple of 8s, but they went over a couple of those numbers. And, I mean, Bradley, he's not been good lately. He's 11 combined earned runs in the last 2 starts. So, I think both offenses could have some success. Now, Strider may get through maybe only allowing 1 or 2, but I think both of these offenses are just too good to only be at 8.5. I would much rather it be I would make it probably around like 9.5, thinking that both teams have the ability to get to 5 runs pretty much easily against any pitcher. So I like the over 8.5 here in Atlanta, Tampa Bay.
I had the same game and same pick as well. I went as a two-way. So I looked at the Braves team total to go over in this game. Yep. Probably going to get that number around 5.5. If you get a 4.5, I'm going to be probably putting 2 units on that. But yeah, I was going to give out 2 picks here, and it's for the exact same reasons of what you mentioned here in this game. Is number 1. I'll start with Spencer Strider on the season. In his starts, the over is 12-5 when he's on the mound for the Atlanta Braves. He's also getting the run support in his starts, where the Braves are averaging around close to 6.5 runs per game when Strider is on the mound. And like the Rangers, the Braves are killing every pitcher they face, man. I mean, we saw with Yuri Perez, who's just having an absolute fantastic season before he ran into these Atlanta Braves offense, and they absolutely obliterated him in that first inning. I think it was last week, I believe, when he faced them. But on the road thus far this season, the Braves are also averaging 5.6 runs per game on the road. And you mentioned it about Taj Bradley, who's getting the start here for the Rays, who's been struggling over his last 5 games for the Tampa Bay Rays. Last 5 games, 1-2 with an 8.02 ERA, and at home, in Tropicana Field. Despite having a 3-2 a winning record, he does have a 5.70 ERA in his last 5 starts. The 4 of those 5 starts for Taj Bradley have seen a combined final score of at least 9 runs or more, so 80% clip over his last 5 games. And you mentioned the stat as well that really stuck out to me. The Rays' second best team towards the over at home this season at 30-16-1, which is right around 65.2% this season. So I had 2 picks for this game. If you want to take the full game over, gives me even more confidence that Lonte's on it as well. But also did like the Braves team total to go over in this game as well. So double, I guess we can say double best bet on the total for
Right.
Saturday games here.
Yeah, man.
Lonte, before we get over to the our dog picks for the Saturday games, let me tell everyone about the best and biggest contest during the NFL season. And you're only going to find that over at Circa Sports. Circa Millions and Circa Survivor are back. 14 million. That's right. I said 14 million in guaranteed prizes are up for grabs. Number one, the first contest, Circa Millions. You make 5 NFL picks against the spread each week. Each pick you get correct, you get a point, and you try to get up the leaderboard. And Circa Survivor as well. You just pick a different money line winner each week. Only caveat is if you haven't played Survivor, once you pick a team for any given week, you cannot pick that same team again for the rest of the season. It's exclusively only in Vegas over at Circa Sportsbook, but you can play from anywhere. You must have a proxy if you are out of state, out of Nevada. And again, Sports Gambling Podcast, Sean and Ryan, I know some of the guys are going to be out there the last weekend in August for Circa Sports Weekend over at Circa Sports Sportsbook. So again, if you need more details and you want to get into the contest, just go to circasports.com for all the details. Again, that's circasports.com for all the details for these upcoming contests. All right, Lonte, let's get into our dog picks for the Saturday games, man. What do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Cleveland, -1.5, plus 117. If you shop around, Mike can get plus 120 or so. But anything above 110, I'm fine with. Singer on the road has not been good. He's a slated starter for this matchup. He's allowed 4+ in 3 of his last 4 road games. He did pitch well a few weeks back against Cleveland, but that was at home. And again, his struggles on the road speak for themselves. I like Gavin Williams. He pitched a gem against Kansas City in that same exact game. He went 7 scoreless, only allowed one hit. Roughed up by Atlanta, but again, how much do you hold against him for being roughed up by Atlanta? It's only his second start, if I'm not mistaken. Followed by he allowed 4 to Oakland, which was his debut. So, I mean, not great about it. I'm not excited about that, but I think against this lineup, pretty weak. I think he can have some success. He's got his confidence after pitching those 7 scoreless against him a few weeks back. Cleveland 22-21 on the run line. Not as attractive as you would like it, but they are 45-42 on the season on the run line. They've also covered 2 of the last 3 and outscored Kansas City 25-7 in the last 4 matchups. So I'm looking for somewhat of what we seen last night. A 6-1, if I'm not mistaken, was the final. Maybe we get a 5-2 type of game. A lot of low scoring, but I think Cleveland can come in, get their bats have been really good lately. Kansas City is always the right time to fade them. So I like Cleveland -1.5. Anything over 110. Right now I see plus 117, plus 120 range. So I think that's good up until down to 110. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the Cleveland bats here. I mean, you mentioned it; they have been better at least over the last 2 weeks. I know they're still a little bit below league average, but when we talk about this Cleveland offense, it's a yearly thing for them that they're just not very good. I mean, they just don't have the batters in that lineup, and I would love to see this Cleveland team spend money on the offensive side of the baseball in their everyday lineup because they do have a lot of talent on their pitching staff. And they have a great manager as well, Terry Francona, who I think personally, I believe he's easily a top 5 manager in entire MLB. So we would like to see some support there for Jose Ramirez in that lineup. I know Stephen Kwan had a good start last season for this Cleveland Guardians team, but I kind of want to see more from this front office, spend some money on this offense because again, like I mentioned, the potential is there. But you mentioned it, Brady Singer on the road this season, 7.03 ERA. He's allowed at least 4 earned runs in, let's see, 4 out of the 6 games on the road thus far this season for the Kansas City Royals. So no argument for me, man. This Guardians team has had a really good record against this Kansas City Royals team, and I faded this Royals team on the run line the other night with the Twins taking them, and they got the victory easily 5-1 against the Kansas City Royals. So yeah, definitely I will co-sign this with you. All right, for my dog pick of the day, there's two ways I would have gone with this. You don't see any first five lines yet, do you, Lonte, for
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
Okay.
Even though the pitchers and the lines are listed, they don't have first fives
Yeah.
on a lot of these games.
Okay, so that led me to then take I'm gonna go with the Yankees on the run line against the Cubs tomorrow. I have Garrett Cole. I was looking at Brian Woo's numbers as well, but Garrett Cole, Yankees burned me on the last pot I was on against the Orioles, where they lost like 14-1.
Right.
But I think this is more of a fade of Drew Smiley here. I know he got off to a really good start during the regular season earlier this year for the Cubbies, but as of late has not been very good. You take a look at his numbers over his last 5 games. He's 2-2 with a 6.29 ERA. He's allowed 17 earned runs and just 24 and 1/3 innings pitched. He does have a good record on the road, but again, if you take a look at some of the opponents that he has faced, at least over the last couple of weeks, on the road, it's been Milwaukee. He gave up 3 earned runs and 3 2/3 innings to the Milwaukee Brewers on the road. Did face the Pirates. We know the Pirates have really regressed over the past couple weeks here in the past month of June as well. And then he faced the Angels at the beginning of June as well, so who've really been inconsistent and haven't been really good against the left-handed pitching. But now you're going up with the Yankees. Again, I know they got their brains beat out by the Orioles, but I trust Garrett Cole in this spot, and he's been really good thus far this season. I mean, his name is always in that conversation for Cy Young, but at home thus far this year, he's 5-1 with a 2.82 ERA. He's only allowed 21 earned runs and 67 innings pitched at home thus far this season. He he's has I know the offense is a concern here, but I believe that you take a look at least for the last 2 weeks against left-handed pitching in particular, the Yankees are in top of the league in a lot of those statistical offensive categories. So I'm gonna start here. WRC plus Yankees over the last 2 weeks, number 6, and they have 143 plate appearances in the last 2 weeks against left-handed pitching. So it's a pretty good sample in my eyes. Team batting average is number 6 as well at 296. Slugging percentage, they are at number 5 at 512. OPS 864 at number 6. So they're top 6, top 5 in most of the offensive categories that I like looking at when we're talking about against left-handed pitching. So I think this is a good spot here. You have the best pitcher on the mound for the New York Yankees, -1.5, +110 for me. I'm going to take the Yankees here. Hopefully they don't burn me again. This is the last time I've given the opportunity here, Delonte.
Yeah, man. I like the Yankees a lot in this matchup. I think you mentioned it with all the left-handed stuff. That's what I had in my notes also, as far as how good they've been against left-handed pitchers. And even against righties, they've been pretty good. Also, the offense has picked up a little bit. I mean, they got buried against Baltimore, but that's a one game, small sample size. But over the past few weeks, they've hit a whole lot better since Judge had been out. So I think it's similar to what Houston's done with Jordan. They kind of got adjusted, got into a good rhythm. Those guys were getting more comfortable in their spaces without Judge. And I think this has been beneficial for them. I mean, Garrett Cole has been lights out. And ironically, surprisingly, I mean, it's a lot of pressure on him. Like with Severino not being anywhere close to what we're used to him being. Rodon's getting back now, but Cortez has been out. So, like, when he goes out, he has to win. I mean, you get paid that much money, they're expecting you to win or compete every single time you get up. And that's a lot of pressure, especially with the offense not playing up to the standards as if they would be with Judge in the lineup. So, yeah, man, I'm with you on that. I like them all series long against the Cardinals also. Well, I mean, not against the Cardinals, against the Cubs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at his numbers against the Cubs. I know the lineup is completely different, but he hasn't faced the Cubs since the 2019 season. So can't take a lot away from that for the history, at least I can say, again with Garrett Cole against Chicago Cubs. But in his career, just for reference, he is 10-3 with a 2.53 ERA in 15 appearances against the Cubs. But again, like I mentioned, it's a completely different lineup, so that is really irrelevant when we talk about these historical stats. All right, Lonte, before we get over to our locks for the Saturday schedule, Let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, and Best Ball Mania 4 is here. If you're a best ball draft type of guy, I know there's a lot of us out there in the SGPN community. You guys need to check out Underdog Fantasy. They're giving away $15 million in prizes for this upcoming season. Underdog Pick'em is also a great way to get down on your favorite MLB and NFL season player props. If you're a player prop player like myself and Lonte, they have a lot of soft lines. Don't say I mentioned that. But again, you guys need to make sure to get over there, take advantage of it. There's so many different ways to win over on Underdog, and Underdog is available in so many different states. So head over to underdogfantasy.com and make sure to use promo code SGPN. You get a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, that's underdogfantasy.com using promo code SGPN. All right, Lonte, let's get into our locks for the Saturday schedules, and then we'll transition over to some NL East talk, man. What do you got for your lock for the week?
Okay, yeah, man. I was just mentioning the team that I'm going to go with for my lock, and that's Houston. For similar reasons as to what you were saying about the Yankees. I think the bats have picked up, and I mean, I think firsthand from being locked in on the team more than what an average fan like myself would be being your hometown team. They've won 8 of the last 10. Offensively, man, they've looked like light years better since when Jordan went out. They've had 5+ earned runs in 3 of the last 5 games. And Valdez, man, I'm a big fan of Valdez. He's performed a lot better than what his record indicates. I mean, I know the record's not great, but he's been good, especially at home. 2 earned runs or less in 5 of his last 6 home starts. He usually pitches into the 6th inning, so he should have some success against the Seattle team that's bottom 7 in strikeouts. They swing at a lot of bad stuff. And also something to monitor, Seattle won the last 3 against Houston. So this should be a good revenge spot for Houston, especially with Valdez on the mound, man. I think Valdez at minus 140 is cheap. And I know Wu hasn't been bad, but again, I mean, the way Houston's hitting the ball right now, at home, Valdez on the mound, I think 140 is cheap, man. I think it's really, really cheap.
This was the pick I was looking at as well, and only because, and it's not my lock, I do have a different play, but I got 100% back you up on this. Framber Valdez has had a lot of success against the Mariners in his career. This dates back to the 2018 season. He also did have 2 starts against the Mariners last season, but in 9 appearances against the Mariners since 2018, he's a perfect 5-0 with a 1.94 ERA, 53 strikeouts in that span. And he's had at least, let's say, 7 strikeouts in 3 of the last 4 starts against the Seattle Mariners. He did have 2 starts last season against the Mariners. And like you mentioned, he's gone at least 6 innings in, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight starts against the Mariners. And I was looking at how they've done. I know earlier this season they weren't doing very good against left-handed pitching, but they are up to number 8 as far as going up against left-handed pitching. But I think that Framber Valdez just has the Mariners number, or maybe has the lineup kind of figured out for this Mariners team. But you mentioned about this lineup as well. I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries. They just put Jose Altuve on the IL for a 10-day IL. That may just be because the All-Star break is around the corner. You always start seeing randomly some of these star important players ending up on the IL for like 10 to 15 days just to kind of give them some extra rest. But you mentioned even without Yordan Alvarez, without Jose Altuve, these other guys in the lineup have really stepped up for the Astros. It's just scary to think that when those 2 guys are going to be healthy, they are in this lineup, how deadly this lineup as it can be. And we've seen this team for the last several seasons be at the top in a lot of the offensive categories as far as, either home runs or runs scored per game. But got to give a lot of credit to Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Jeremy Pena, those guys in the lineup, even guys like Mauricio Dubon. Chas McCormick has come on. He had some clutch hits for the Astros in this game against the Rangers. So this lineup is deep. I know they're, like you mentioned, they're missing their top 2 guys, but I really do have faith in Framber Valdez to continue his success against the Mariners. So, man, I definitely will co-sign that with you. I wouldn't mind sprinkling on that run line as well. I mean, that's a nice plus 155 price as it stands right now on the Astros absolutely. Run line.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so for my lock for the Saturday games, I'm going to go with the other Texas team, Lonte. I'm going to go with the Texas Rangers minus 1.5 against they are facing the Washington Nationals.
That was another one I had. So
Jake Irvin gets the start here for the Nationals, and he's struggled in Nationals Park in DC, where he is 0-4 with a 5.15 ERA. Also, the Nationals are 1-7 straight up and 2-6 against the run line in Irvin's home starts this season. So he hasn't been very. I know he's had a couple of good starts over his last couple games there, but they've been against weaker offenses. Meanwhile, Andrew Heaney, he's getting the start here for the Rangers, left-handed pitcher. And on the road, despite having a 2-2 record, Lonte, he has a 2.55 ERA with a 0.93 WHIP. In his 6 road starts, the Rangers are 4-2 on the run line at -1.5. I also have, again, we talked about how great the Braves offense is. We talked about how great the Astros offense is as well. Rangers arguably are number 1, if not number 2, right behind the Braves as far as offense this season. And they can put up runs in a plenty. So I have the better pitcher on the mound. I definitely have the better offense on the mound. And even if, let's just say, Andrew Heaney gives up a couple earned runs early, this offense is going to get all 9 at-bats being on the road. You get 9 innings here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rangers offense gets here in the range of 7+ runs here. So I could foresee a 7-2, 6-3 type of final here. I definitely do think they cover the run line here. That price right now is at -115 on the -1.5 for the Rangers. So I'm going to take the Rangers run line -115 with Andrew Heaney on the mound and Jake Irvin for the Nationals here, Lonte.
Yeah, man, I always fade Jake Irvin. I mean, it's just been profitable on the year. And Washington at home, you mentioned it, not good at all. They don't have any home field advantage. Texas has the ability to be able to stretch out against bad teams. I don't have the number in front of me, but I think I've seen it on MLB Tonight. They were talking about how good Texas is against bad teams or I guess losing teams. And they mashed the ball completely against those guys. So yeah, man, that was one of my other picks. I like Heaney. I mean, he's been good. You routed off the numbers. I wish he was like that when he was with the Yankees, but that's for another time. But yeah, man, I co-sign that. Texas is a good link. I would link them and Houston up in a parlay. Actually, that's what I'm gonna do for one of my personal bits.
Texas 2-step. I like it, man.
There we go.
All right, so that's our lock, dog, and total. We'll recap our picks at the end of the show. Just if you guys maybe fast forward or didn't catch them all of them, but we'll recap it at the end of the show. So we'll spend a little bit of time here. Maybe I don't know how long this conversation will be, but as part of our Futures Friday episodes, and I think it's right fitting that we're getting this last division in before the All-Star break, and that is the NL East division right now, Lonte.
Yep.
Taking a look at the standings right now for this division, and let's just, I mean, we can already put a stamp on that. Probably the Atlanta Braves have run away with this division. So they are sitting in the top spot at 58-28. They have an 8.5 game lead over the second place team. Another 50-win team here, probably the most surprising team in the Miami Marlins, followed by the Phillies at 47-39, 11 games back. The New York Mets, probably the most disappointing team thus far this season at 41-46. They have won 5 games in a row, so maybe there's a little bit of hope, at least for maybe a playoff push, but we'll see. They're 17.5 games back in the team that we just discussed, the Washington National, the lowly 35-53. The Braves have a league best third best actually, run differential at +147. They are third right behind the Texas Rangers, who are number 1, and the Tampa Bay Rays at +149. So that may just change this weekend for the Braves. They might become the second best team as far as a run differential go. But as far as the division odds right now, Lonte, we'll kind of go team by team here. I don't think there's any value here when currently the Atlanta Braves are a -4,000 favorite to win this division. Phillies are at 30-1, Marlins at 40-1, Mets at 200-1, and then the Washington Nationals at 800-1. We'll get into some make and miss playoffs, maybe for some of the other teams in this division, but let's just kind of go from top to bottom here, Lonte. Atlanta Braves, man, I mean, I'll let you lead it off here, but this team has been an absolute wagon for bettors this season, whether it's been on their team totals or it's been on the run line here, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's no value on Atlanta, but I mean, they're just going to get like even more stronger. I think Max and Kyle Wright are scheduled to come back after the All-Star break.
That's scary.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? So Max was I think one of them was on assignment and the other had just started throwing. I get them mixed up as to which one is which, but they're both on pace to come back. And they probably should be back by the All-Star break. And I mean, they're rolling with the guys that they have. They got those young guys, Elder and I'm blanking on the other guy's name, the other pitcher, the young guy that they had.
Strider?
Not Strider, the other guy. They had Elder, and it was another guy that they were pitching. I can't remember his name.
Let me see if I can find it.
Either way, I mean, they have time to basically ease those other two guys in. I mean, those were aces on their team, like, so they can ease them back in and don't have to come in and have high expectations. So that's even more scary for them. I mean, the lineup is a lineup. They hit Michael Harris at 9. That's all you need to know. the reigning rookie of the year. He's in the 9th hole, and I mean 1 through 9, man, they're just a joy to watch. And since in North Carolina we don't have a baseball team, obviously, so I get a chance to watch every Braves game. So, man, it's fun to watch. And I mean, their value's going out of them on anything. I wouldn't bet them to, win the World Series or anything. I mean, wait for them to go on like a slide if you think that's possible. And
if that's going to happen,
yeah, but no value on them right now, man. It's just not there. They're just too good. And I mean, they got those guys coming back, and I mean, they're one of the only teams that I don't know if they have a weakness right now.
Yeah, so quickly on their pitching rotation. So Max Fried is the one that's going to start a rehab assignment on Sunday, actually. Okay. And then Kyle Wright, I am seeing that he.
I think it said he was able to start throwing.
Yeah, so he's going to start throwing. But again, like you mentioned, like there's no rush for him to even come back with how well this offense and even the pitching has been for the Atlanta Braves. They're just so deep at every position, man. It's just crazy to think. I mean, even maybe the one weakness, maybe the bullpen, but even then, I just don't know. Yeah. I think that might be the only area of weakness for this Atlanta Braves team. And again, if they think that's one of the areas where they are struggling, they're not going to be afraid to go out and make a move to bolster that bullpen. But right now, like we talked about it, they are the odds-on favorite to win the World Series. They're now over on DraftKings. They are plus 330 to win the World Series, and they are the favorite to win the National League at plus 160. So not a lot of holes in this team. I mean, they've just been an absolute monster, just covering run lines, team totals, whether it's been first 5 team totals, if you've been betting those, or full game team totals. This team has just been an absolute wagon. And they're well managed as well. So we'll see if they do make any bullpen moves when the trade deadline does come up. And again, we're like you mentioned, Lonte, that they're waiting for those 2 guys to come back for this pitching rotation, Max Fried and Kyle Wright. Anything to add for the Atlanta Braves?
Nah, it was the pitcher I was talking about. I mean, he's not young, but he was in the 18 draft. But Kobe Allard.
Yeah,
he can come in and spell them and give them a couple of starts. I think he pitched 5 in a no decision a few nights ago. So yeah, he was the other guy I was thinking of.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get over to the next team. I think this team, maybe for some, had been a little bit surprising coming into this season, and that is the Miami Marlins. And I know a lot of us did take the over on their win total for this season, but they're currently sitting in second place in the NL East division, 51-38. Another team that has 50-plus wins thus far on this season. And they've really been sneaky. I really like the moves that they made in the offseason to really bolster the batting lineup. For them to get Luis Ariz from the Minnesota Twins, that's just been an absolute monster move, especially at that top of the lineup, where this guy can definitely bat 400 for you at the top of that lineup. But Lonte, if I told you that the reigning Cy Young winner was having this type of season, I think we all would have thought that Miami Marlins would have probably been at the bottom of this division with the Washington Nationals. But what have you kind of seen from this Marlins team thus far this season has kind of led to their success at 51-38?
Man, I think that but you're right though. If you said Sandy would be playing like this, he'd probably be getting sent down with Manoah if he didn't win that Cy Young. But yeah, I think the success has come from the pitching. I mean, since he's been down, those other guys have stepped up and been really good. I think you were talking about Perez earlier, really good. And I mean, Jazz has been in and out of the lineup. I think he's back on the IL right now, right?
I think it's a 10-day IL for him. And then I saw a note this morning, if I'm not mistaken, that they designated Yuri Perez for assignment.
Did they?
I think I saw a note for that. Let me double check that while you
Yeah,
get
why
in
is
more
I
details.
don't get that, but I think the their success is come from the pitching. It's come from the pitching, and they're being really good at home. I think they're maybe like 12 or 13 games over 500 at home, which is really good, and especially down in that neck of the woods as far as being in Miami, where baseball is really big at. So I think the pitching is why they've had much success. And like you said, I like the top of that lineup. I might need to see them get maybe one more bat on the back end of that
Yeah.
lineup to just to secure and giving them some protection at the end of that lineup. But outside of that, man, they've been really surprising. I think it starts with the pitching, and I mean, Jazz being a big part of the lineup. I mean, he's been in and out of it. If he can get in there and stay healthy and be consistent, he adds a little bit more pop in the lineup, especially on defense in center field. So I think along with the pitching, just them playing as well as they played at home in stretches, and they beat good teams while doing this. So I mean, imagine they're going to get Sandy if he can just be, just a little bit better. They're going to be even scarier.
It's not even him having to be like Cy Young form. Just be a little bit better than you
That's
had
all.
been. Yeah.
Give up 2 or 3 instead of giving up 5 or 6, and they'll be fine. They can win any type of game. I mean, we saw them score double-digit runs on St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken, a few nights ago, back to back. So the power is there. I mean, they're not going to do that consistently. They're not a high-scoring, high-powered offense consistently, but they put the ball in play. You mentioned Luis Rice. I think he's hitting everything. So that's a good start. I mean, you got a leadoff batter who's probably going to get on base like 4 times out of 10. So, yeah, I mean, I think that adds confidence to it along with that pitching. And big surprise for me, but I think that's the main thing is the pitching outside of Sandy being just extremely, extremely good in the first half.
Yeah, I think that the getting another power bat is probably what they need to do because they only have one player or one batter in their lineup right now that has double-digit home runs, and that's Jorge Soler at 22 home runs. The next closest guy are Jazz Chisholm, like you mentioned, or Jazz Chisholm, and then Brian De La Cruz. Both have 9 home runs. I'm sorry, Garrett Cooper also has 11 home runs. So 2 guys right now that are in double digits for as far as home runs. But yeah, definitely can see the potential with this team. I mean, again, 51-38, especially in the NL East division. You got to give credit to this team and also the manager there. Yuri Perez did get options to the minors. I'm probably need to get some more details on why that happened, but yeah, like you mentioned, the pitching, Jesus Luzardo, 7.5 on the season, 3.32 ERA. Sandy has a 4.93 ERA. He's only at 3-7, but this pitching staff has been absolutely fantastic for this Miami Marlins team. Getting over to the next team in this division, the Phillies. They kind of turned it around over here over the past month or so, where they started to actually get on some winning streak and racking up the wins here. But they're sitting at 47-39, coming off a World Series run last year that fell short to the Houston Astros. I felt like the 2 pitchers that were going to be taxed were going to be Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola for this team because they were their 1-2 punch in their playoff run last year. I know Bryce Harper, they didn't have Bryce Harper at the start of the season, but he's back in the lineup as well. Kyle Schwarber has been hitting bombs. But for me, but what have you kind of seen from this Phillies team? They're currently sitting at 47-39.
Yeah, so I like the trajectory of them. I mean, they've won 15 straight road games. Any team that can win that amount of road games against quality competition, I think is on the upside. Me personally, I don't like the pitching, man. I mean, Wheeler and Nola are okay, but I think they got to kind of go and get, an arm or two. If you could exchange like the Marlins lineup with some of the top end on the Marlins rotation to Philly, I think they would probably be in the driver's seat right there with Atlanta because their bats are really good. But it's just that pitching I just don't like. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm not the biggest fan of their pitching, which is why I think they've struggled early on. And now they're getting in the groove. Offensively, they've been really, really performing well. Like I said, they went on the road. But I have no problem with them offensively. It's just the pitching that I just have a question. I mean, that I have like a questionable tag on. I'm not sure how you feel about that though.
Yeah, I mean, give Philly credit, man. They went into Tampa and swept them earlier this week. And they held that offense only 6 total runs in that game. But yeah, again, there's a lot of talent on the offensive side. I mean, when you talk about Trey Turner and Bryce Harper in your lineup, We know Nick Castellanos is more consistent than not. Kyle Schwarber can hit those home runs. Not a guy that hits for average, but he's a guy that can absolutely rip the cover off of the ball when he does make contact. And you're right that the pitching is the concern for this team, because inconsistency is the word that comes to mind for me when we talk about this pitching, because you have two stud pitchers in this pitching rotation in Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. That any given season they are, they're in that Cy Young conversation, or they're at least up there in the odds to win the NL Cy Young every single year. It's really that back end of that rotation that kind of makes you nervous. I know Ranger Suarez has been pitching well as well. Taijuan Walker, again, those two guys are really inconsistent. So you're right that if Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler both have ERAs right now of above 4, and again, that may have a lot to do with the amount of innings that they did pitch last season, just because of their playoff run into the World Series. But I think they do need another top pitcher in there, right behind maybe Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. Maybe another number 2 type of pitcher there. I think Aaron Nola and Wheeler are probably 1A, 1B.
I like Bieber going there.
Yeah, Bieber's going to be hot. He's going to be a hot commodity.
Yeah, he definitely is.
This upcoming trade deadline for a lot of these contending teams. So, I mean, we talked about, teams like the Astros who do need pitching. The Rangers you could throw into that conversation as well. So he's going to be a hot commodity. I think that you're right. This could be a great fit for the Phillies, adding Shane Bieber into their rotation for this upcoming season. So we'll get to some make and miss playoff odds when we get to the next 2 teams here. The New York Mets. Where do we start here, man? I mean, they spent
Shohei or nothing. Shohei or nothing.
They spent an incredible amount of money this offseason trying to put together this roster. So currently they are 41-46, 17.5 games behind the division leader in the Atlanta Braves. They have a run differential of +1. Now, give them credit, Lonte. They've won 5 in a row here.
Yeah, they've looked better. Yeah.
But again, with all the hype that came in with this team, you had the reigning AL Cy Young winner, Justin Verlander, coming into your rotation. I mean, with the incredible season that he did have last year with the Houston Astros, you know that there was going to be some type of regression coming for him. But he's been really good at Citi Field. At home, he's been absolutely fantastic. We saw Max Scherzer, between suspensions and IL stinks this upcoming earlier this season. He's been good at Citi Field as well. But again, when you have these 2 older pitchers on your roster, and as you kind of progress through the season and those innings add up, it doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs, but even if they did, I'm not sure I would trust Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer just because of the tax that might be on their arms during the regular season and being that of age. And again, offensively, they have guys that can hit for power, but if you look at some of these batting averages, man,
it's home run or strikeout.
It's feast or famine, man. It's either that they're hitting the ball over the wall, or they're striking out, man. But they really don't have batters in this lineup that hit for average. I know they have Brandon Nimmo, guys like that, but
yeah, I like Nimmo.
I mean, Lindor, Pete Alonso, Starling Marte. I mean, Starling Marte strikes out at a very high rate, man.
Yeah, he does. He does.
But talk to me about this Mets team, man. I mean, what is? Do you think they need to blow it up? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, how many games are they back from the playoffs or from the wild card?
So let's look at the wild card here.
Because that's what I want to focus on. Because we know they're not winning the division. They can cancel that. They're not winning the division.
So it's 3 spots that get the
3
wild card. So right now the Phillies are in that 3rd spot at 47-39, and I think they are now 6.5 games back of the Phillies for that wild card spot.
And who's in front of the Phillies?
So in front of the Phillies, we have the San Francisco Giants. Oh, I'm sorry. In front of the Phillies or behind the Phillies?
Behind the Phillies. I'm sorry. Who's behind?
So it's Giants, Brewers, and then the Mets, and then the Padres are also tied with the Mets as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just bet on the upside and that they're going to make a move, then I can understand it. But will I do it? Probably not. I mean, you mentioned the tax on both of those veteran pitchers. I mean, they had an outlier. Both of them had great years, but I think coming down with that age, not getting the bats. I mean, the run support that they're accustomed to, especially not from in Houston. What he was accustomed to, because they were hitting the cover off the ball in Houston when he was there. So I don't know, man. Like, just the Mets are just frustrating, and this is coming from a Yankees fan. So like they're just like, I love it, like watching it, but like from just a pure baseball fan perspective, I mean, just seeing them just get outperformed every night, blow games, not be able to withstand some of those leads, even some of the games that they win. It's like, dang, they were like this close to losing it. And I mean, you just can't have that for a team who's fighting for a playoff push, especially with the type of payroll that you're paying out. As far as blowing it up, I don't know if they should, but they need to shake it up. I would say they need to get a nice shake up, get a few bats in there that can hit consistency. You need some consistency around those guys that are going to hit, bombs. Pete Alonso is going to hit you a bomb. But the other guys, they're not going to get on base. So you need some guys that are going to get on base consistently that can hit around Alonso. And I mean, all the talks have been them linked to Shohei, but again, I mean, Shohei is going to feel a lot of void in that lineup, but I'm not sure if he can save them from where they're at right now. But I mean, if they're playing well right now, that's the only thing that's stopping me from saying blow it up, because they're playing extremely well right now on both sides of the ball. But if Shohei doesn't go there, they got to get 3 or 4 different pieces to shake up the lineup.
I think that, again, the rumors were circulating that if this team continues to in a downward spiral, that Max Scherzer may be open to waiving his no trade clause and going to a contender. So again, that's something that we'll have to keep in mind when we.
What can they get for him though? Realistically,
I mean, not much. I mean, a couple of prospects.
He's going to go back to he's going to go to the Dodgers.
I mean, I think there's teams out there like we just talked about that could probably use his services. I
mean, no, for sure, for sure. But what is the team like willing to give up? Like,
yeah, I mean, there's a team that wants to give up some type of prospect. I don't know what the asking price is going to be from the Mets.
Yeah, that's the big question.
Yeah. So I think once they also do get off the contract as well, right, for the amount of money that they're paying him. So again, we'll see, man. Again, I think this All-Star break, at least for the Mets, is coming at the wrong time just because they've been playing so well.
Right.
They had and again, this series this weekend between the Padres and the Mets, it's absolutely huge.
Just how many games are they within each other?
They're tied in that wild card spot.
They're tied in the standings. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're tied in the standings. So they're both 6.5 games back of the Phillies right now for that third spot right now. They both have a record of 41 and 46. So this is a series that we're gonna have to both or all of us are gonna be watching just because to see what happens. I
got more
starting on. Oh yeah. I think I do too. And that's telling something because I wasn't huge on San Diego coming into this year.
Right.
But yeah, again, we could probably sit here and talk about the Mets for hours, but I think, they've definitely been the biggest disappointment thus far this season. Maybe there, again, coincidentally with the San Diego Padres. Absolutely. Last team in this division here, not much to add here for me, was the Washington Nationals. I think the one bright spot that has been for this Nationals rotation has been Josiah Gray. This was a pitcher over the past couple of seasons that we were fading, but he's really found his form this season for this rotation for the Washington Nationals. Lane Thomas at the top of the order has been pretty good for them as well. But I mean, coming into the year with their win total being one of the lowest, and rightfully so, just because the talent is just not there for this Nationals team. They're currently sitting at 34 and 53. Looking forward to the getting a very high draft pick for the upcoming MLB draft. I really didn't have much for this Nationals team. Did you have anything to add here for the Nationals?
Yeah, not really. I do like how Josiah Gray turned it around there. I'm a fan of Mackenzie Gore. He just has to get his control and get that hard contact down. I think he'll be fine and a big part of what they want to do moving forward. But outside of that, nothing really to add. I mean, they should have a ton of prospects ready. So they could, end up being somewhat like, what the Reds are doing, what Baltimore is doing. So if you're looking for a team on a trajectory to possibly be, next in line the next 2 or 3 years, or 3-4 years, however long it takes, they might be a choice that you can look at. I mean, they just won the World Series not too long ago, so
yeah.
They're not far removed from that. So maybe a team to watch out for in the next 3 or 4 years. But as of right now, fade machine. I think we both are fading them in one of our bets or so.
Yeah. So quickly, let's just kind of a rapid fire here. Some of the make or miss playoffs for at least the 4 teams here outside of the Braves. So the Mets right now to make the playoffs are plus 340. The no is at minus 425. Are you betting the yes here?
Nah, I'll take the no. I don't want to take that.
All
It's
right.
not high enough.
Phillies are minus 245 to make the playoffs, and the no is at 2-1. Anything that entices you there?
I probably would lean to the no at the plus price. I just don't trust the consistency of their pitching. But again, if their bats get hot, they're winning on the road. It's tough to bet. It's tough to bet against them. But once it gets tight and teams start playing for jockeying for positions, I think they may be in trouble, especially with the back end of that rotation.
Marlins last team, they're at minus 200 to make the playoffs, and the no is at plus 170. They are currently in the wild card standings, have a 2.5 game lead over the Dodgers. And the Phillies. So they just have a 2.5 game lead out of that third spot is what I'm trying to say. So anything that entices you there?
Man, look, I like the Marlins. We both just went over 2-1 is pretty high. But again, I would probably just lean to the yes that they're going to make it. I mean, that their pitching is just so good, and if Sandy can be a little bit better, I think they'll be inside the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's, again, kind of just looking at the MVP market as well for this division because Ronald Acuna Jr. right now is the odds on.
Yeah, it's over. It's
minus 350 to win the National League MVP and American League. Not any easier. Shohei Ohtani minus 800. Lonte, I don't remember last time where we had two guys that are probably the runaway MVPs before the All-Star break.
Right. So what happens if Shohei gets traded to another?
That's a great question.
Like, how do they grade that? Will he win? Like, I don't know. Like,
that's something that we would definitely have to look up. But
because technically he would do, I mean, I guess half and half. Because the trade deadline is when?
That's a good question. Let me see if I can find that here. MLB trade deadline 3 is going to be August 1st.
Yeah, so obviously he would play more games in the first half of that deadline for the Halos than he would. So he would probably, his stats would probably be more so in this conference versus the other conference that he's going to. So yeah, I don't know. That's interesting to see. I'm not sure what to do with that. And same with the rest of these guys for these awards. Like, what if they switch conferences? I don't know how that's going to be graded.
Yeah, I think that's something that we definitely have to look up. Yeah, man, that's the last team of at least the NL East division. Again, the runaway favorite is in the division again and then one of the most disappointing teams in this division as well in the New York Mets. Lonte, before we get out of here, let's recap our picks here real quick. I'll just quickly go off here. So my lock is Rangers on the run line, -1.5, -115 with Andrew Haney and Jake Irvin on the mound. For my dog, I am going to go with the Yankees on the run line, -1.5, +110 with Garrett Cole on the mound. And for my total, I have 2. And Lonte agrees with me on this. It's the over in the Rays and the Braves 8.5, and then also the Braves team total to go over in this game as well. Lonte, what's your picks?
Yeah, so for my lock, I got Houston -140. For my dog, I got Cleveland -1.5. Anything over 110 is fine. I got 117, so anything down to 110, I think is a good bet. My total, like you mentioned, I got Atlanta, Tampa Bay over to 8.5. So those are the 3 plays that I'm going to roll with for the weekend.
All right. So that is going to do it. This is our final pod before the All-Star break. We'll probably be back Sunday night in some form or fashion, and we'll get into the Home Run Derby picks as well. So last weekend before we have a short break for the All-Star break. Again, Home Run Derby is on Monday in Seattle, and then the Tuesday is going to be the All-Star game for MLB, and then there's a day off, and then we're back to action on Thursday for the second half of the season. Maybe we'll come back like on Tuesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, do like a second half preview. Maybe give out some future picks that we do like, maybe some value. I know last year we were high on the Cardinals, all of us, where we gave that out around 2-1 for them to come back and win the division. Maybe you can find another one, make it 3 years in a row where we're able to find a good value pick for that. But Lonte, anything else you want to mention, my man, before we get out of here?
Nah, man, that's it. Looking forward to this weekend. Some good baseball. So some good opportunity to make some money and get in the green, get ready for football season.
Yes, sir. All right, so that's going to do it for this edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast. Make sure to subscribe, like on the YouTube channel if you do watch us live. Again, appreciate everybody in the chat, the usual suspects every day in the chat with us. Appreciate you guys. Make sure to follow Lonte on Twitter at XXLonteXX. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. Make sure to hop into the Discord channel, sg.pn/Discord. Guys are chopping it up every single day with their picks in the MLB channel. So come join the conversation. And hopefully we can put some more money in your pockets for the second half of the season. All right. Enjoy the games this weekend. Let's make some money. Let's break these books off and let it ride.